I guess you got to give this team credit for all of the naysayers and all the negativity that was surrounding this team over the previous 3 weeks. For them to pull off 2 wins in the month of December, I guess is an impressive feat and shows you a little something.
Well, you know what, man? At the end of the day, a win is a win, but we can't get carried away, and they can't run around here and act like, things are just gravy and hunky-dory in this whole year. This is still, not a very good team, and their record depicts what they really are, and that's 6-7. At the end of the day, so I'm not going to go around and be saying all these guys are great and this and this and that. They're just a part of a bad division. They still have an opportunity to make it to the playoffs. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree. I'm not sitting here putting this team on a pedestal and saying, man, what a good team all of a sudden. But I guess with the Murray stuff and, Bradford being hurt and everybody wanted Kelly gone. And I guess there's got to be a little bit there to say, you know what, this team showed a little bit of something, a little bit of fight, a little bit of whatever adjective you want to use to describe them, that a lot of people were counting them out. And, yeah, not impressive, but to win games in the NFL is not easy. So with all the negativity, I guess there's something to be said for that. But you're right. I don't know that anybody's all of a sudden changing gears to think this is a Super Bowl team.
Right. But, they did play well. This is probably the most complete game that I've seen the Eagles team play this year. Every facet of this team went out and accomplished something in this game. The special teams, of course, played very, very well. The Sproles returned and the fact they got a fumble, recovered a fumble deep into the Bills' territory. That was a plus. Defense played well, held Shady to 74 yards. That's a plus. Played against a mobile quarterback and Tyrod Taylor. Played well against Sammy Watkins. Those are all pluses. And then on offense, they were able to move the ball when they needed to move the ball and score the necessary points to win this game. And, I think Sam Bradford had his most complete game also. There's still this lingering sense that, these guys really have to learn how to catch again. They're not catching all the balls at Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford has to be perfect in where he puts the ball in order for these guys to catch it. And there's got to be some times where they help their quarterback out and catch the balls that aren't thrown well.
Barrett Brooks is with us. Murray yesterday, 11 carries, 34 yards. They didn't run the ball great as a team yesterday. Matthews, 13 for 38. Sproles, 7 times for 41 yards. But Murray getting 11. He had the second most carries on the team yesterday, and there was a lot of discussion about him. I know they won the game, but if they want to move forward, are they going to have to phase Murray out, or does he still have a role on this team for you?
I think he still has a role. He might be their short yardage back or, change the pace back. It just so happens that Matthews have to be a better player. Ryan Matthews has to be a better player than Murray is at this point. And Sproles, we all know, is one of the most athletic guys on the team. And his scat back type of nature that he has, makes him a valuable asset on this team. So, he really can't play in front of those two guys, but he still has to work on this team. They paid him all this money, so, he's probably the happiest guy out of the bunch, just from when he picks his paycheck up today. But, if you look at things, man, he is what he was when he left Dallas. And, if you watch film from last year on Dallas, and I was telling people this whole, the whole summer, there was going to be a running back controversy. I also said that, Murray isn't the fastest guy in the world, and you say there's one-step cut that everybody's been talking about. Well, they really don't understand conceptually what that means. That means track running. You run until you see the hole, then you take one step, you cut, and you take it downhill. Well, he is that type of back, but it has to be a great offensive line in front of him, like he had in Dallas, be from I-back formation. So neither of those two things have been done here in Philadelphia, so you can't expect him to be more than what he is. In Dallas, he was slow. He just so happened to get through the line of scrimmage before he got touched, at the second and third level of the defense. That's what made him a better back than what he was. So, watch film. He's still the same back as he was then. He's still the same back he is now. He just fit the system better in Dallas.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with that. And I was with you, Barrett. I said it when they signed both of them. I said, Matthews, don't be surprised. He's probably the better back. Murray has the better resume. And I guess it's taken Kelly this long to kind of get past the fact that the resume was what it was. And he knows, I got to give him some credit for that, for at least acknowledging when the season was on the line, that they had to make that change. Now, the question is this change enough for them to get hot at the right time? I mean, is just simply changing running backs and featuring somebody different enough to kind of kickstart this offense?
Well, I mean, it's going to have to be. I think the major thing is they need to kickstart this offense is doing what they're doing. They have to rely on Sam Bradford. He's getting better as the season goes along. He's knocking off that rust of not playing for 2 years. He's also acquired the offense a lot better than he started at the beginning of the system. He understands where his receivers are going to be, what they need to do to get open. They can analyze in the defense. Those things are finally to fruition. So he's playing better. And I'll tell you what, the biggest thing is this team is rallying behind him. They love the fact that he's playing well right now, and they really believe in what Sam Bradford can do. So from that vantage point, they're only going to get better as the season goes on because he's going to get better. And as he gets, better as far as his mastery of this offense, he's going to make the guys around him better also.
All right, Bradford, 23 of 38, 247. He had the touchdown. I don't think the pick was really his fault. I mean, that was a ball that was just kind of wrestled away from Ertz. But today, Chip Kelly acknowledged that we wouldn't have traded for him if we thought he'd only be for a year. We've always wanted that. Kelly continuing to insist, Barrett, that Bradford's the long-term guy. Do you still feel that is a possibility that Bradford is the guy moving forward?
Well, I mean, it has to be because there's just not so much stuff out there right now to really even entertain bringing in somebody else. The free agent market is going to be slim pickings. A lot of people want to bring RG3 in or Colin Kaepernick, two guys that may be on the free agent market this year. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I really don't want those guys. I don't want the baggage that they bring into this system, and I don't think they're accurate enough to be in a Chip Kelly system. It's not necessarily the fact that he's got to be a running quarterback to really, apply to Chip Kelly's system. If you look at Marcus Mariota, he is a good quarterback. He's good at drop back. He's good at running that read option. He's just a good guy with special skills. It's not necessarily that Chip Kelly needs this guy to be running around. He needs an accurate quarterback, and you can see Marcus Mariota is very accurate. I think as time goes on, the Sam Bradford will systematically become a better quarterback, and he'll fit well in what Chip Kelly's trying to do. I just don't see Colin Kaepernick being accurate enough to really run this system. I definitely see RG3 being tough enough to run the system.
Yeah, that's two good points on both those guys. The RG3 thing's interesting because he was a very accurate passer, but you're right. The hits that he would take because of his abilities in this offense might not be able to get him through a season, where on the other side, Kaepernick, big enough to take the hits, but does he have if you could morph RG3 and Kaepernick into one guy, you might have something in this offense.
You have Cam Newton, that's what you would have. So that's exactly what you have. You have Cam Newton. So, I mean, if you look at it, I'm looking at the glass being half full. Let's keep, Sam Bradford, sign him to a deal in which they'd be a 3 or 4 year deal, patchwork type of deal, until you find a younger quarterback that can really be mentored under Sam and learn this offense, and then grow into the offense as Chip Kelly grows into being the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be the best thing that this Eagles team could do.
How does it go down in a locker room, Barrett, when Murray, who they win for the second week in a row, and he kind of slips out of there without talking to anybody? Does that go down as kind of sour grapes? I mean, I can't imagine that he is being looked at in a great light around that team right now.
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, you're a tattletale. You want to told on your head coach, and you want to told on that you're not getting to go out there and play in the reindeer games like you want to. Can't do that and think the guys on the team, of course they're going to say all the right things. Yeah, that's our teammate. We're going to rally behind him. He's one of us, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, but you just don't do that, man. You don't go crying to the owner because you're not, getting to play as much as you want to play or get the carries that you need to get. The owner, I mean, it's not the same culture that you're used to. He's used to doing that in Dallas. Jason Garrett was just a guy. Jason Garrett's a guy. He's not really he's not really put in a position where he can really direct the team the way he wants to. Chip is the guy. Chip is the GM. Chip is the head coach. So that road stops right there. It shouldn't go up to the owner. It stops right there. Even though Jeffrey Lurie is a great guy, a great owner. I really enjoyed playing for Jeffrey Lurie. He was really a good guy, man. Every time I see him now, I still feel as though he's one of the better owners in the league. I played for some great owners. I played with the Rooneys, which are also great owners. it still doesn't change the fact that there's proper protocol in which how you approach things. You don't approach things through the head coach. You weren't good enough to really carry this team the way you thought you could, so you got to take the back seat, sit down somewhere, and let guys that can play better than you play.
Barrett Brooks won a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can see him on Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network mornings, 6 to 8 a.m. Last week was kind of interesting leading into this game. All the McCoy stuff, and obviously that was a big distraction. How did you think entering the game Kelly handled it? I mean, for the first time, did you feel we saw a little genuine side from Kelly, admitting that they made a mistake? I mean, for the first time, it seemed like he was willing to take some responsibility for doing something wrong.
That's the first time he didn't pass the buck and point the finger somewhere else. And, not he cares if I'm, proud of him and he's going in the right direction. I did feel as though, he took one for the team and knowing and admitting that he did something wrong as opposed to him passing the buck and pointing the finger at somebody else. So I like the way he stepped up. I like the way, he approached the situation. Shady, I don't think really Shady did a lot to really, hurt himself as far as, what the whole situation is either. I thought he was a stand-up guy. He stood up to the situation. He didn't run from things until the end of the game. At the end of the game, he ran away like, a dog with his tail between the legs. I thought that wasn't cool. But, I mean, this whole game was surrounded by two individuals that, really didn't impact the game like everybody thought they were going to impact. He thought everybody thought Chip was going to, go nuts and try to show Shady up. And then you turn around, you show Shady, he thought he was going to go out and just run rampant. Defense played well. Chip Kelly's offense played well. And it played out the way it was supposed to be played out, in between the lines, mano-a-mano. And the Eagles happened to be the better team yesterday.
Barrett, the 3 weeks leading up, or 2 weeks leading up, they gave up 90, 45 in consecutive games against two offenses that are not all that good. Should Billy Davis be given credit? What has changed defensively over the last two games where, look, they didn't play great against the Patriots on defense, but better than they did the previous 2 weeks. And then yesterday I thought they played a pretty good game defensively.
Well, if you look at it, I like the way they played. Ran a little more two high safeties as opposed to one high. They played, when they did get a man situation, they played two-man, which is two safeties over the top and manned everybody else up underneath. That way you had help on the outside with the safety, the high safety on where Sammy Watkins was, and the other side, can help out with Wood. That's what you needed to do. That's Coach Davis adapting to the situation, understanding the big guys up front that play in their offensive line. So that's what helped them out an awful lot. So I like the fact that they did that. They stepped up and they really performed. I think Coach Davis also, put a little fire underneath the front seven and really, targeted guys like, look, I need you to play good. I need you to play good. And I need you to play good. And those guys up front, that's exactly what they did. Cedric Thornton, Benny Logan, and Fletcher Cox played masterfully, and making sure those linebackers were not being blocked, made plays behind all the line of scrimmage for tackles for loss. Fletcher Cox, 8 tackles, 1 sack, playing 7 solo tackles. He just mastered incognito and really beat up on incognito.
Yeah, and Fletcher Cox, you're a guy who played in the interior of the offensive line. You wonder how much of a disruption a guy like that can be, specifically this time of the year too, where teams want to kind of run the ball. Although the weather hasn't been cold, to get into that mode yet, but typically playoff football, December football, the team that controls that running game up front like that. But having Fletcher Cox the way he's emerged the last couple of weeks.
Well, he's standing guys up, and he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. If he doesn't make it to the Pro Bowl, they might as well just do away with the Pro Bowl because he's played at a level which I haven't seen anybody else in the league, even, number 99 down in Houston, I think that Watt's one of the better players in the league, but I think Fletcher Cox has to be mentioned up there in the same sentence with him, with the Watts, with guys that can really dominate games, and that's exactly what Fletcher Cox did. He dominated that game yesterday. He was the biggest. He showed that he's the biggest bird on the block, and he's probably the best player on this team.
Well, and you know what? I don't, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if they weren't playing a 4-3, but they were playing some 4-man front and sliding him down into the tackle position on some plays. And man, he was just disruptive because he was so fast off the first step getting through that center guard gap. It seemed like they did move him a little bit yesterday.
Well, yeah, and I think that was just dictated by the player, the personnel packages that Buffalo had to come in with, to try to catch up. They ran with a lot of 11 personnel, and when you have 11 personnel in, the Eagles countered with putting their nickel defense in. So you have 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and the rest DBs. And they figured, they would be a better matchup with them anyways. That way you can bring in Vinny Curry to rush the passer also. So it turned out, pick your poison. You want to double Fletcher Cox, and you got Curry come off the end. If you want to double Curry, then you have Fletcher Cox by himself. It's really pick your poison because both guys played very, very well yesterday.
Yeah, that's another guy, Curry. We've seen a lot more of him the last 2 weeks. It seems like he's been on the field more this week and the previous week than he was in the weeks before that, getting that extra pass rush out there on the field, and he's helped out. And Graham, I think, has gotten more pass rush than he was getting earlier in the year. So the pass rush, the addition of the pass rush has certainly helped over the last couple of weeks. And I think Eric Rowe has played very well in that role, filling in for Nolan Carroll now.
Oh, my goodness. If you said Nolan Carroll never hadn't got hurt, you wouldn't see the gym that Eric Rowe is becoming. Eric Rowe is very physical at the line of scrimmage. He's rerouting receivers. He's running with guys stride for stride. He's using the proper technique and attacking the ball at his highest point. Those are all things that he still has, that he's being coached at, that he's listening to. When you have an older player that's set in their ways like a Maxwell, they're not doing those same things. If you look at Maxwell, he's not regressing like he was. He's finally starting to play a little bit better than he did before. But, once he goes back to those old techniques, they don't necessarily work for him. When he does the proper techniques, he plays pretty well. But a guy like Rowe at this point, that's all he knows right now. He doesn't know any of the bad habits of learning to be a pro. He has all these good habits. So he's playing very, very well. He's playing physical. I like the fact that they're giving this guy an opportunity to really play instead of bringing in E.J. Biggers. He stepped up to the plate, and he's played very well, these last 2 games.
Amen. I had said before, Barrett, that it was a crime that they didn't give him any run in the first couple of weeks. I mean, from between week 2 or 3, when he made a play against the Jets in that game, had an interception. They never went back to the kid. To not put him on the field in any defensive snaps, I think, is a crime for a second-round pick like that to not get out there. When you mentioned E.J. Bigger is just the guy taking your spot. But one thing moving forward from here, they're going to play Arizona. Obviously, very tough. They moved that game to the Sunday nighter, and then they got Washington and the Giants. Realistically, Barrett, it doesn't matter what they do against Arizona. It's going to come down to beating Washington. Probably the winner of that game takes this thing. You agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, they could lose against the Cardinals and still be okay, but they have to take care of business with Washington and with the Giants. And hopefully, Miami comes out and gets those as a bone and they beat up on this Giants team and virtually take them out the whole equation. That's what I want to do. In a perfect world, that's what would happen. But I do see that Washington, they were on the road. They beat a bad, Bears team, but they won on the road. Now they have one more home game left, I think, this week against Minnesota, and then the rest, the last 2 are on the road. So I really see that this Eagles team has a great opportunity to get in this playoffs. And you know what? I want to see where they are really against this Cardinal team because it's one of the upper echelon NFC teams, and I want to see where they if they can hold their own and where they lie as far as, the big dogs in the NFC.
Yeah.
I really want to see how they're going to adjust to Malcolm Floyd. I want to see what they're going to do against Larry Fitzgerald and John Brown. John Brown can take the top off the defense. Larry Fitzgerald is one of the best receivers as far as possession, and Malcolm Floyd is just a perfect mixture of both. He's got the side speed to take the top off the defense, and he can go in and catch the ball in the middle. They have a perfect blend of receivers, and I want to see where these guys are in this whole NFC.
That's funny because right before you came on, I was talking about the Cardinals and how a complete football team they are, and the same exact things. Possession with Fitzgerald, Brown blows the top off, and Michael Floyd does both. I mean, this is just a handful of a team to try to defend, so they will have their hands full against, though, a Cardinals team that pretty much has everything wrapped up in the West, so we'll see what kind of firepower they bring to Lincoln Financial Field. It's a Sunday night game, so the Eagles will play back-to-back primetime games. And I would assume if it comes down to Eagles-Giants to somebody to get in, you can count on a third one coming down the road if that were to happen. Barrett Brooks, everybody, tomorrow morning, 6 to 8 on the Comcast Network. He'll have breakfast on Broad. And don't forget that Super Bowl ring that he wears on his finger. All right, pal.
Thanks a lot, bro. Have a good one.
Take care.